Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Allison. If you are new here, I am a mom to 6 and a wife to 1. And this video is about hospitality and homemaking from a Christian perspective. This is a little about my story, a little about my past, and a couple little anecdotes here. I'm recording the intro after recording the entire voiceover. And so now I know how the story ends here. But essentially, this video is me cooking on Memorial Day. I'm having my family over, and now I'm just giving you some thoughts on homemaking and hospitality. So stick with me. There's some great recipes in here, and I definitely want your feedback at the end. If you are new here, my name is Allison. I am a Christian wife and mom. I have 6 children, and I have been married 18 years this year. And I was making some food for my family on Memorial Day. And so I turned on the camera and thought I would just share as I was prepping, the normal Memorial Day fare. And as I was thinking on how I was going to share this content, I was talking to one of my friends and she gave me some suggestions and some things she'd like to hear. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. I should talk about hospitality, especially as a Christian. So from a Christian standpoint, hospitality and homemaking. And so as I got to thinking, as I was watching this video, but also just some things I've learned over the years, I moved out into my own apartment when I was 20. And so I lived on my own when I was 20 years old. I did not get married until I was 21. And so from the age of 20, I started to learn how to cook from scratch and how to live on a budget. I lived in my own apartment. I paid my own bills. I learned how to cook my own food, all those things. And as time has gone on and I got married and my husband and I lived in our own apartment in Wisconsin. We actually had 2 different apartments. And then we came back home to Michigan and bought a house. And we are now in our second house in Michigan. And I have learned a lot over the years. I've learned a lot about cooking. My family has grown. I have increased in skill as well as far as cooking and homemaking and preparing food. And especially as my family has grown, I have increased in skill as far as preparing a lot of food for a lot of people. And I guess another aspect of that too is because I have 6 kids and my children range in age from 13 years old down to not quite 2. So since I'm still in that stage of life where I have a toddler who takes naps, I like to host. I think I've always liked to host, but I definitely like to host having a lot of kids. It's just easier having a lot of children and having them in their own environment. I think I like to host too before I had kids. Anyway, here's some things that I have learned as a Christian practicing hospitality. Now, I think the biggest thing that I want to share about is that I don't think that your guests should have your best. Now, hear me out, okay? I feel like this is going to be a little controversial, but I think that this is sort of our norm. Like if you go to the grocery store, what you're going to see at the grocery store is magazines and those like pretty magazines that are at the checkout that have all the recipes. And, we had Martha Stewart Living and all of that. We had Ina May Gaskin, and I'm trying to think of all the other ladies that I used to watch. I enjoyed those things. However, they were very much centered on hosting. Okay. I think hosting and hospitality, while the words are similar, they're 2 different things. And as a wife and as a mother, your homemaking should definitely be the priority for your family first. So if you're the kind of person who likes to cook from scratch, but you only make the nice recipes for your guests, your children and your husband will take note of that. So if you're only making these special foods for when company is coming over, then your family is going to take note of that. It's going to feel like they're not the most important and they're not the special guest. But reality is, we don't have our children with us forever. We don't have our children in our homes forever. And Lord willing, one day our children and their families will come back and visit us, and they'll get that same come home experience. That's my goal. I'd like my children to make their home special for their family, and that was their experience in their home, versus, we only get out the nice plates when we have nice company over. Now, of course, I get that nice things and children don't always mix, okay? I don't have nice things because I have 6 children. All that to say, I think it's really important that if you are somebody who likes to cook, that you make sure that you cook for your family. You cook for your husband, you cook for your children, and don't make it that you only use those skills on a special occasion and for other people. So that's one of the big things I'm going to say here. So another aspect of hospitality and homemaking. So this day that I'm cooking is Memorial Day, and I have one of my siblings coming over and his wife. I have my dad and my stepmom are coming over. I have my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law and my nephew coming over. I wasn't sure if I was going to have friends come over this day. I had prepared as far as how much food I was going to make for other people to come. I am very much of the mindset of the more the merrier, and I would like you to bring your guests. If there is somebody who doesn't have a place to go, I want them to come. I don't care who they are. I want them to come. That's not always reality, and I think a lot of people don't do that, and so it feels awkward to a lot of people, but I definitely would like to be the home where, if there is somebody who is from out of town and they don't have a place to go, they're welcome. They're welcome. We can easily find things to have in common, and there's more than enough food every time I cook. So anyway, as I'm making all of this food, one of the things that I will say too about hospitality and Christian hospitality is that it doesn't have to be extravagant. And I think actually the extravagance and things like those magazines do make it unattainable for many. So homemade food, not even homemade food, it doesn't have to be homemade food. Use your skills to the best of your ability, but keep it simple. We did actually use paper plates this day, now that I'm thinking of it, but normally I don't. I have been collecting Corelle plates for a while, and we use Corelle plates. We put them in the dishwasher when we're done. I try to use real cups. I try to use real forks and knives, and we just wash the dishes. And that's it. Just real food eaten on a real plate. One of the things I think keeps homemaking and keeps hospitality simple for me is that I use simple recipes. This is coleslaw made from scratch. It's cabbage, red cabbage and green, and onion, and carrots. It has celery seeds, and oftentimes I will make the dressing. I'll use mayo, apple cider vinegar, sugar, salt, pepper, and celery seed. It's very, very simple, and it's delicious. This is the sweet kind of coleslaw, which is, of course, what we like. On this day, I was just cooking in the morning. There was no rush to get things done. It does look a little rushed, but it's only because I sped up the video a little bit. But I made a very simple menu. I made homemade burgers, which you'll see in a little bit. I made the patties. I added some seasoning, just what I had on hand. I wrapped up the coleslaw. I think I also made some pasta salad on this day, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And I just leisurely made the food in the morning. One of the things that can kind of tie us up when it comes to hospitality and homemaking, and hospitality in particular, is that all of these magazines tend to give the impression that you need to make it fancy schmancy. Here I am with my Walmart iced tea pitchers, and I'm making some store brand iced tea. I've got some unsweetened, and I've got some sweetened iced tea. And that's what drink we had. We had water and we had iced tea. Keeping it very simple. I think sometimes these magazines and the world can leave us in this spiral where we begin to think that what's important is the kind of pillows that we've got on our couch, or how nice our house looks, or all of those things. I remember being a very newlywed, and we had not yet been married a year. We got married in November, or maybe it is just over a year. So we got married in November, and that following October, I discovered Hobby Lobby, and I was so excited because I went to Hobby Lobby and bought a bunch of decor for my little apartment. And I will never forget these little tiny pumpkin things. And I probably spent less than $20. I have always been extremely frugal. I couldn't see myself spending any amount of money, honestly, on home decor, unless it was, a quilt that I could actually use. Anyhow, so that first year when fall turned into Christmas time, I thought to myself, well, this is strange. What do I do with this stuff now until the next year? I grew up in a home where my mom used to decorate this balcony that we had, and she had all these little white stuffed animals that she used as decor, and those were not toys. That was the Christmas decor. Like there was a big snowman, and I feel like there were bunnies and bears and all these like white stuffed animals. And I grew up remembering that as a nice memory. Like these are beautiful things. It just looks beautiful up there. Well, practically, when it came to doing it myself, I thought, well, where am I supposed to put this pumpkin stuff? Okay, well, I'll put it in the Christmas bin. Then comes Christmas. And at this point, I grew up using a Christmas tree and stockings and all of that. So, of course, I had them this was now our second Christmas married. And we had a fireplace, so perfect. I had this little $20 Target Christmas tree and, maybe one set of Christmas lights and a few homemade ornaments. And then when it came time to put that away, I thought, where do I put this stuff? And even then, it was just the two of us and the dog and the cat. And I couldn't fathom that I was going to use part of my closet in my little 2-bedroom apartment for holding stuff. And that stuff was just going to come out once a year, and then it was going to clutter up my house, and then I was going to have to dust the stuff, and then I was going to have to store the stuff. And that, folks, is when I became a minimalist, I guess. Anyway, so all that to say, your stuff isn't super important. Now some people, of course, this can be their gift, okay? I'm not knocking it. If it's your gift, go for it. If you enjoy it, go for it. But that is not the point of hospitality. The point of hospitality is caring for people, loving people, treating them with kindness, loving them, welcoming them, feeding them. Practically, what does it say? I'm famous for, I think the Apostle Paul used to say, somewhere it says in scripture, somewhere it says, I'm going to pull that. Somewhere it says, I'm going to also paraphrase too, because of course, you have to actually practically serve other people if you're going to love them. You can't just say, be blessed and be warmed, but you don't offer them clothing and you don't offer them food or water to drink. So there is a practical aspect of feeding people. And I think coming from a family where I grew up with 4 siblings, and I don't remember it being like, oh, okay, if you don't get your food, you're going to be hungry. It was never like that for me as far as I can remember, but I don't want my kids to have that experience either. I know it's very common in large families where it'd be like, well, there's only so much food. And of course, everything doesn't have to be a buffet. But I love the aspect of hospitality being about caring for those who come into your home. So if I've got my pumpkin decor out or not, that has nothing to do with their soul. That has nothing to do with their physical needs or their emotional needs. So I can love on them, but my pumpkin isn't going to love on them. Catch my drift? Anyway, so that was the evolution and the beginning, honestly, of the Lord really revealing to me what was important in homemaking and in hospitality and what that actually means. Okay, so now I feel like it's important to say that was 18 years ago. And what homemaking and hospitality look like today is similar. However, I have people who live in my home all the time. And those are the people that I get to host all the time and practice hospitality to all the time. So I'm not getting my nice towels out for my guests. I am supplying my family with the best things I can. And if it's good for my family, it's absolutely good enough for guests. That's sort of my mindset. So when I'm cooking, there's not a fancy recipe that I'm using. I'm not doing it better because I have other people to come over. And I think it's interesting that that would be a reality for anybody because your children will watch you. Your children know what they get. Now, of course, I always feel like I have to caveat here because I know what it's like to make all the food all day, every day. And you only want to make the nice, super fancy extra step things on a special occasion. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, is this a pattern of your life? Does your guest get your best? And your family, are they chopped liver? Is that what that is? So over the years in the Christian homemaking circles, one of the things that I learned to do, or learned as a way to use the skills that I have, is making meals and bringing them to people. And there was a season where I made a lot of meals for people. And I think I have a heart for those in especially postpartum season. I know how special and how difficult of a time that is. And so if there is someone in my life who is going through that season, I'm going to try to minister to them in some way and as practically as I can. So food is the best thing that I know how. However, one day I was making food and my husband and my children came in and said, "Can we eat this, or is this for someone else?" And it had become a practice that, nope, all that food that I made, no, that's not for us. No, that's not for us. So I have to make sure that it's more on the side of the teeter-totter of, yes, this is for us. Yes, this is for dinner. Yes, this is for snacks this week. This needs to be for my family first. I can't feed another family with a hot home-cooked meal that took a lot of effort and a lot of time and dirtied my kitchen and, took all day, but I didn't double it and make one for my own family too. It's just something I'd like to encourage you ladies in. If this is something that you're interested in, make sure that your family is getting your best. Make sure that your family is who you're treating with the special things. When it comes to hospitality, think of your family, your husband, your children as those most deserving of the fresh, clean towel in the bathroom, those most deserving of the dishes being out of the sink. Think of your family as those who should get that as close to the red carpet experience as you can, practically speaking. Of course, I say that. I have 6 children. I can't accomplish that every day. It is chaos and pandemonium here. And so, of course, we are going to try to clean the house and make it look like we don't live like this every day when guests come over. Another aspect of hospitality that I have seen brought up over the years is people feeling self-conscious of their home. And I think that goes back to, again, what's the purpose? What is the point of hospitality? Is it to show off your home? Is it to impress your guests? Or is it to care for your guests? Is it to love and minister to them? And I would argue that it's to love and minister to them. And so this is something that I have grown in over the years. I have come to embrace contentment for my own home. I'm very thankful for the roof over our head. We have a sufficient home for our family. We have more than enough space for all of our things. We have way too many things. That's my personal belief. Like I said, I started that minimalism journey 18 years ago. But I think part of it in hospitality is contentment. It's a matter of being very content with the things you have and not having a heart to impress, but rather the heart behind the work that you're doing is out of love and care for other people. Once your motivation adjusts to that mindset and to that perspective, it makes it a lot less stressful to have people come into your home. As it stands, I currently am missing or have broken drawers in my kitchen. I think 3 of my drawers are broken, and I don't have very many drawers. So that's quite a significant amount of drawers. Most of my things that are in my kitchen are either from thrift stores or from estate sales. I think this knife that I'm using, my stepmom actually got me from an estate sale. My cutting board that I'm using it came with my sink. This wood one that I have here, it came with my sink and it fits in my sink and I will still use it on the counter. That contentment and that attitude behind, I'm not trying to impress you with my cooking. I'm not trying to impress you with my home. I don't care what you think of my home, and I don't care what you think of my cooking. The reason I'm having you over is not for any of those things, On the other hand, I do all things to the glory of God. So am I a good cook? I think so. Am I going to make food that I think tastes good? Yes, I am. Am I going to make it with high quality ingredients? Yes, I am. Yes, I'm going to do all things to the glory of God. However, that's not my motivation. And with that not being my motivation, it makes it a lot easier. So I'm seeking to honor God in what I'm doing. And I have no pressure of if somebody doesn't like my house. And that frees up so much social pressure for me. This is just not something that I struggle with. I am content with my 1,700 square foot home for my family of 8. I think that's much bigger than most people in the world. And I'm just so thankful for it. And I'm so thankful that I get to use it to minister to people and to serve other people, because God gave us this home and God gave me all these tools and all these skills, and I just get to put them to use. And whoever the Lord would have come to my house, that's who I get to feed, and that's who I get to love on. And with my food and my cooking, that is me with a physical, tangible representation of my love and care. So if you're eating my food, it's because I care about you, and these are my gifts. And so when I'm using my gifts for you, it's because I'm caring for you. So I think that perspective shift really takes the pressure off on making sure that, I have a Martha Stewart looking salad or whatever. I don't have an Instagram aesthetic salad. The bowl that I'm using for my pasta salad is the same bowl that I got from my wedding shower 18 years ago. My utensils are not aesthetically pleasing. Some of them are chewed up and tore up, but they still work. And so I'm still using them. I might not have fancy china or crystal glasses, but we're having a good time. And I think changing that perspective has really helped me grow in really enjoying having people over to my house. And I think also that I don't care what you think of my house or my cooking. That also really helps. Like, I want you to come over and I'm not looking for your approval and I'm not looking for your praise. And so when I don't have those things that are a pressure on me, there's really no pressure. So it makes it much more enjoyable. So I don't know if that's something that could be an encouragement to you in any way once you change who your focus is, and be honest, be truly honest about what your focus is and where your goal is and why you're doing what you're doing. Are you doing it to impress other people, or are you doing it to love other people? And in that, it really helps with enjoying hospitality and homemaking, and that it is not a chore, it's a blessing. Okay, now here's some practical tips for homemaking. If there's anyone who has made it to this point in the video and you're looking for some practical hospitality and homemaking tips, I made a pasta salad, and my brother and sister-in-law are vegetarians. So I made the pasta salad that they could eat before I added the extra ingredients. So I made it vegetarian and pulled out their portion of it. In hindsight, I could have put the Parmesan cheese on their part of the pasta salad too, but I forgot. So then I added the meat, and I am dairy-free, and my youngest daughter is dairy-free. And I pulled out some of the pasta salad for the side that my daughter and I could eat. And then the rest of it, which I can serve to my guests, I added the Parmesan cheese. So I added in all the last ingredients. So that is one of the ways that I try to meet practical needs that other people have. Like if they have dietary accommodations, I am going to do my very best to try to remember them in those accommodations. Another thing that's very practical here, I am cutting up fruit. This is such an easy, practical way to serve guests, especially in the summer. What you can't see, in case I'm getting this voiceover anywhere near the part where I'm cutting up watermelon, I have my almost 2-year-old up on the counter, but what you can't see is that there's 2 counters that meet each other there, and I'm standing there the entire time. Even if I step away, I've got my hand on her, and I'm just out of the frame. So I'm actually blocking her as I'm standing there, and you can't see it, but there's another counter like right to the other side of her. So she's not sitting right at the edge of the counter. I'm blocking her in that, in case somebody's wondering. I don't just have my 1-year-old on the counter with me and the knives. Anyway, another practical aspect here. I will leave these recipes below. At the end of this video, I actually make my best chocolate chip cookie recipe. I love this recipe. I made the mistake. At one point, I actually lost my chocolate chip cookie recipe, and it was devastating to me. I was so sad. This recipe is, in my opinion, the best chocolate chip cookie recipe there is. And my sister-in-law ended up finding the recipe that I had sent to her in an archived photo somewhere on her phone. So thankfully, she saved the day. I didn't lose it, but that is a lesson that I'm learning. I share my recipes. I will have, if I made a video, I'm not sure if I have made a video with those chocolate chip cookies. If I did, that's going to be linked below. If I didn't, I will leave the recipe below. And I promise you, I will make a video including this recipe. This recipe is very good with dairy-free butter, which is how I'm making it in the video. I've made this same recipe using coconut oil. It's just a 1-to-1 ratio. And then, of course, this is really good with butter. I have experimented with brown butter. There's because you brown the butter, you take some of the water out, and I haven't quite figured out how much brown butter to use in order to make the ratio correct for this recipe. However, this recipe is A+, the best. So I'm going to leave it down below. This is another one of my tips when I'm making food. I have that binder, and of course, it's not aesthetic. My sister worked at Volkswagen for a few years and ended up with a bunch of office supplies that she offered to me. And that big old 3-ring binder was part of those office supplies. I have some plastic sleeves, and I tucked my recipes in there. And it's not pretty, but it works. And that's where my recipes go. But because they're only sleeves and it's not like laminated pages, sometimes when my kids are using the recipes, they have lost them. And so that's how I ended up losing my chocolate chip cookie recipe, which thankfully, again, shout out to Kristen. She saved the day because I now still have my favorite recipe. I have my favorite brownie recipe. I have a lot of my favorite recipes, and I think that helps too in hospitality and hosting when I have tried and true things that, I know like the back of my hand. I know this is going to turn out. I know that this is going to taste good. That makes it easier on me to host. I'm just going to pull out my own recipes, and I'm going to make my favorite things, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I know other people are going to enjoy it. And that sort of takes the stress off by having it be something that I don't have to think about. So again, I will leave that recipe down below. If I think I did at some point make a video about this recipe. I'll leave that down below or up in the card. And I'm going to include my brownie recipe. And I think I'm just going to have like a playlist of all of my recipes. If they're on YouTube, I'm going to have them here for you. Get your own recipes. Get your own binder. It doesn't have to be pretty. Get your own tried and true things. Your family is going to remember your things. Your things. The things that I think of about my grandma. I have both of my grandma's recipes. My grandma, my maternal grandma, I have her recipes in my binder. I have some of my other grandma's recipes in my binder. But my grandma on my mom's side used to make this overnight caramel French toast, super decadent, over the top, so good. I should make it again, actually. It's kind of one of those things that's like, make this on Christmas morning because it's so rich. Like, this is not a every month kind of a thing. But I haven't made it in a couple years, so maybe I'll throw that on there for one morning here. And I'll share that recipe if I do end up making it. And on my other grandma's side, I have her finished pancake recipe, and that's something that we like to make a lot. And I have her rhubarb crisp, which it is rhubarb season, and that's coming. That's coming. And my grandmas were an example to me in how to cook for other people and how to have people come into your home, and also how lovely it was to have recipes that only they made. And, I just want my grandma's almond cookies, or I want my other grandma's rhubarb crisp. My other grandma had a recipe called Blitz Tort. Thankfully, I have aunts who have preserved these recipes for the ones that I didn't have. But these things are the legacy that you leave as a wife and a mother. These are not small things. These are very big things. These are pivotal parts of life that all of us have, I just comment down below if your grandma has a recipe that you just love and is so nostalgic. I'm hoping for all of you that you will make this chocolate chip cookie recipe, and that for all of your families, that this will be your chocolate chip cookie recipe that everyone will love so much, and that your kids and your grandkids will then remember, oh, grandma's chocolate chip cookie recipe was so good. Please take this recipe. Make this recipe your recipe like that. The key to this recipe, which I normally make, I've made the cookies in the round cookies, but it also works as cookie bars, which is what I'm going to actually do in this video. But the key to this recipe is slightly under baking this. Slightly. You want these not to be overbaked. I don't like my cookies crispy. You want them slightly soft in the middle. So, anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on hospitality and homemaking, and if that has changed for you over the years. I also want to hear, what are your go-to recipes? What are your things that you are known for or that you want to be known for? And then also, what were your grandma's recipes that you loved? Okay, I'll see you again real soon. Bye.